Hello, I'm here with another Q review. Today we have a game between Nomad Farmer and Lovelace. I have not looked at this game at all, just had it sent to me. And so now looking at it. And yeah, let's just go through it together. I'll go up until the point where I think the game is mostly over, and we'll just see how it goes. So Nomad is white. Black is playing Orthodox, so the idea of this opening is to create a nice balance of territory and strength in the bottom right, and speed and development in the upper right. So Black's saying he's going to, compared to having a 3-4 point in the upper right, Black's saying they're going to settle some points in strength in that bottom right, but then move to the other part of the board and try to develop quickly. As opposed to if you had 2, 3, 4 points, then you're saying I'm going to enclose, and then I'm going to enclose again, or force my opponent to approach and then pincer or back off or take points, which is a much slower paced game. And this is medium paced. Fast paced would be 2 star points, finish the corners quickly, move to the next part of the board. So it's important to think about the opening. So Black here, medium paced opening, very balanced, framework potential on the right, development potential on the top. And white, here's this 3-4 and 4-4 point. So White's saying also medium paced opening. So go to match Black. Could develop to Chinese, but that's not very good with P3 here. So territorial enclosure, possible. Splitting, possible. Approach, possible. Lots of possibilities. Approaching at 0-17 is also becoming more common, but we see R14. So this is a really common. This opening was played tons in the past few years. We'll see if they go with it. Oh, okay, so that's relatively modern. Maybe 2 years ago, which is old and go years at a top level. White would play here. We've seen this kind of opening like a lot. Whoops, sorry. Like this was super common. White could also play like a shoulder hit. Normally here, block and then pincer is normal. And then we've seen games with this approach or the far approach. Even the close approach is, I think I've seen like one game with it. But this is something that's been even more modern. Maybe the last year has been pretty popular. Oh, wow. So typically Black has 3 options here. Black can connect. This is the most common. I think pros favor this the most, but I understand why they do it, and I agree with it. But from a pure theory standpoint, it's not questionable, but it's a little strange. So this is the most common, followed by the Descend, which is very territorial. Locally the best shape. The problem is when White pushes, Black normally has to answer and White takes the side. The feeling is the game depends really whether or not this development on the bottom side is going to be useful. In this case, the 3-4 point is here, so it might not be very useful because Black doesn't have a good approach to this bottom left corner. So we've seen in AlphaGo games, even after the AlphaGo games, Black can pincer here or pincer here. Even this one, like a lot of moves here. And White can Atari, which is pretty strong, aiming at the follow-up at 0-3. And this is really pretty good shape, strong shape. The stone has some movement. Lots of ways this can go. But again, this is not what we've seen. The other move, which I'm not talking about, is the move that was played in the game. This move is popular among certain players. Lisa Doll, AlphaGo likes this move. It's become more popular as the other variations have fallen out of favor. Oh, let me back up 1 second. This connection here. So the reason this is a little weird is that if we think about this as like originally a 4-4 point instead of a 3-4 point, and we think, oh, we remove these 2 stones and these 2 stones. Like, let's just say it's an open board, right? It's like this. White played here. Maybe Black pushed once and then turned. Then maybe this P3 move is a little weird. Like, it's possible it's like this, right, with an enclosure, and White played here for some weird reason. And these exchanges are pretty even. Like overall, like they're decently even exchanges. I guess you could say this push is kind of bad. Like you might just block, but they're decently even exchanges. Um, but if you compare that to playing this P3 move and having the same shape, I personally don't like it. But I mean, like in terms of a theory standpoint, and like I don't think it's great. But at the same time, I understand why they do it because this shape is much doesn't give white the turn forcing move, which is really big, because that helps the connection with Q10, which helps R14 a lot, which you get if you play the descent S4, which we saw. But the other option is Q6. This is going to press white down on the right, and it's trying to kind of just it's true it's not great for an approach here, but it also develops the center more, like here and here, which is a little hard to see, but it can be considered like kind of good exchanges, kind of bad, depending on what happens. This is fairly new. I'm not super familiar with it, but it is played. So the general idea is white jumps, black plays here, so everything's normal, and then white will often either hane, which is not seen much because black will then cut and play the ladder, or if the ladder doesn't work, just extend. In this case, the ladder, I believe, does work for black. Yeah, so you're fine. But you often see white just leave this position and play something like here, or slide, which is I guess what happened in the game. I haven't seen too many games with the slide, so I'm not entirely sure. It feels like Nomad is playing something fairly new. The game kind of depends on whether or not these exchanges are useful or not. The original purpose of playing this attachment here, I should explain that a little, is to prevent the pincer, or make it harder for black to pincer, compared to the other shape, like black approaches in the upper left and then pincers on the right, which I showed earlier. So we're trying to avoid that as white, but whether or not these stones on the right become useful or not is a big part of what this game will end up being about. So white takes the corner. Let's see how black answers. Black tenekis, okay. Totally reasonable, very big point. There's no urgency. Like R17 is actually quite small because black will answer at L17. And yes, it's a corner, but it's actually, L17 has a lot of value because it reduces the development potential of this corner. So they're roughly even, and white might want to play N17 later, so it's fine for like black to teneki. D5. Well, that's interesting. It feels like white is compelled to answer somehow on the bottom so as not to make this very useful. I'd be very tempted as black to aim at something around here because these stones are not settled, and if you could get a stone here and then come back to R17, that would be at first intuition a good position for white because you could attack the upper right. But at the same time, white's developing quickly across the board, so it's not clear when black's going to get a chance. So white pincers, this is intuitive because you want to extend from your star point stone. I'm a little bit hesitant though to play this pincer. For instance, black can play here, and this is a fairly simple tenuki joseki, and then simply extend along the bottom. It looks a little strange if you're not used to playing these kind of center-ish moves, but black has a nice follow-up at E3 to make the whole bottom into points, and even if white slides, black still retains the options to block here or develop the center. And if white plays like this, you can still block. You know, even if white goes here, it's like white does get these. This is not small in terms of, like, white's not going to play this now, but for endgame. But black still maintains most of the space between here and the wall, even though it's an open skirt. So, just because it's so far to get under the skirt, right? So I would consider this kind of thing. I feel like white gets a lot of profit. Maybe even just expand directly, invite white to come in, but that seems a little greedy, so I don't know. I would be tempted to play something like this to make my position work together. Since it seems white's going for territory, this kind of becomes a territory versus development type of game. But I think it's possible, you know, It's not bad for white either. I'd just be a little weary of this possibility. Alternatively, black could play something more direct on the bottom, just like expand here. The intuitive thing for white to do is to connect under. But then black could just leave it, like this is a move later, and black could just approach. Or maybe take this follow-up on the side that we talked about earlier. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I would be a little bit hesitant as white to play this particular pincer because of the Tenuki possibility. I might want to play a high pincer or something. But this is fine. It's totally playable, I think, if you really like points. I just feel like white already has maybe some points. So we're going to probably see the most popular Joseki, yeah. This is a very common Joseki. Are we going to see the most common follow-up? Seems like it. Oh, this one. Okay, this is a little unusual. Not unusual. This is very simple. It's probably the original variation, like what I've seen the most in older games. If white turns here, black's going to come here. And this is similar to the upper right reasoning. This turn is very big in terms of points, but it has no impact on the rest of the board. This move moves towards this corner, so it actually performs a double duty of reducing the influence. And if black plays c2 and pushes white to take k3, it actually reduces this wall a bit. So it's actually not such a big point. It's big for points, but it's not so great for development, so it's not a big place to play. This is overplay. Black definitely should take the corner and white should expand. I think that this result is pretty good for white because, this point develops upper left, and getting k3 and this pretty strong, it's not super strong, but it's a solid group, really makes these exchanges good for white overall. And, there's still the follow-ups here or the push and cut, but overall, given that black went for that early investment, left the potential for, white to take the points back. Like, if black plays this move, it feels like, compared to the other variation, these two moves might kind of be wasted, Oh, sorry, these two moves. So, maybe that's why black decided to pincer. I think it was here. But the problem with this is that, yes, this is globally a nice point, but when you miss this kind of big urgent point, this move is a turn. It's a turn. It's the base of both groups, right? Now this group gets a base in the corner and is strong, and this group loses a bunch of eye shape. So this kind of urgent point, you really, even though the global position is good, unless you're going to give up the entire group, or the global plane is just really big. And J3 is not small, but it's not that big. It's not big enough to make this kind of weak group. So black took the corner, and white Tenukis, okay. Well, if we think about this for a second, it kind of follows from the same idea as I just said. You want to continue here, because this move also makes your group strong, creates a base in the corner, and takes away black's turn, which is, again, making a base there. It looks small for points, but it's actually really critical, because if black has to run out here, right, you're naturally going to either lean on this group, which is going to hurt this group, and you get to come back, or black has to save this group, and then you naturally reduce the right side, making the J3 move not so big. This is an exchange. Again, I don't think it's very important to make this exchange. Maybe white was worried about the pincer potential, but this move actually damages the potential of the upper left a bit. So it's not really important to make this exchange right here at this moment. And yeah, so if white should come back to the bottom left again. Like, this is big for the Moyo, but yeah, bottom left is really urgent. So now if black plays here, we notice that this whole group is actually quite in trouble, because black's completely alive now. And if white Tenukis, black can just attack this entire group, like something quite simple, making profit at the bottom. Eventually, black will come back here, which just undermines the entire thing, and white just has this really terrible stick running through the board. So it's actually really urgent for white to come back here. If white feels like, maybe black actually won't answer, right? Like, after this, black can live like this, pretty simply. then white should at least jump. White doesn't have to take the corner, although the corner's big for points, and I think it holds more potential to attack. Jumping is fine because it also aims at turning here. And if black pushes up, you might... I mean, here's the thing. You kind of end up coming back here anyway. But it's more urgent because black can't get out. Yeah. But so, like, that's a really urgent point. And you see black comes to this jump. Another way of explaining white, but maybe not as severe. And white Tenukis again. Okay, really big point. But this move is not so big now. White's now already alive in the corner after R17. It does help this group a bit. I don't really even think of this as a group. They're kind of just forcing exchanges. But what is going to happen with this? Probably shouldn't leave it. And the thing is, when we realize that this group is getting weaker, we notice that, like, if we have this kind of running fight, the group on the left might fall under some pretty annoying counterattacks too. Or black could just come in here right away. It makes this Moyo formation that you made not so great, because this group is indirectly very strong since this bottom group is kind of weak, right? You can imagine black can play here anytime, forcing white to defend, coming in. Now these two stones are under attack, and you spent a move. This is good for the corner, but if it was just the corner, it's not big enough. And for the Moyo, you actually lose the Moyo potential here and actually have a weak group. So this kind of vital point is super important for considering the strength of groups. We see black played something more aggressive. You don't have to be this aggressive, especially when it's really weak. You generally don't want to touch. So touching makes your opponent stronger. It makes you stronger too, but black doesn't need to get stronger here. And white leaves it. Is white really okay? What happens if black plays here? Are you going to attach? I guess you could be okay. I guess it's okay, but it's really sketchy to me. But, you know, this cut also... Like, actually, no, this is quite dead. Yeah, so probably should... Okay, white played this one. Oh, this was the game. Black did turn. This looks like it's going to die. Wait, really? I mean, I guess you're not dead yet, but... No, wait, what? Just here, right? White has to answer, otherwise there's no eyes, then... Not there, sorry. Throw in, Hana, and then extend. Like, this thing just dies. Like, this taking the stone here doesn't matter because you can't push other than cut. Am I missing something? Maybe I just missed it. But I felt that black should have answered or just killed it. I mean, this move is Sente, so maybe black will kill it, but if you make that kind of exchange, okay, I don't know what's going on. Normally you just cap. Sure, this can run, but if you're going to make these forcing moves on the left, you should do them at the right timing. Like this, yeah, I know that these are a leaning attack, obviously. But let's say you lean... First of all, right now I don't think white should answer at c9, but let's say white does. Okay, you make this leaning move, right? And then you come back to attack. White is not going to run like this. White's going to be more flexible because white already gained extra profit here from the leaning attack. Right? It's kind of subtle, but since black already gave it, you can treat m6 lighter since black already gave that investment to white to get the more severe attack. You can give it up a little bit. Whereas if you cap first, before this, just cap first, and then run, once you get, sorry, not that move, once you get closer to this area, and then you lean, it's harder for white to, well, first of all, white can't do this, which is what my instinct was before, but it's harder for white to go along with this. White has to save these stones, so you can get your extra profit, like that. Anyway, also here, I think this is a little aji-keshi. You still, like, in attacking the whole group, makes a much better use of your thickness. So this game's kind of in a weird point. Black's missing a lot of opportunities, but White might be getting away with some stuff. Okay, so Black just wanted that one exchange. I wouldn't even call this a probe, though. Like, White really should come here. When you know what the answer is, it's not a probe. But, yeah. Okay, so Black caps. What does White do? White runs out. This is really heavy. You can't give up the stone, so if you play this way, because they're connected, they're so close. I would really consider playing something like this, or just even Tenuki, right? Like, if you play here and Black cuts, which Black's not going to do, but let's say Black does, then White can come here. Start developing the Moyo on the left, right? Give up the stone. Yes, this bottom side is big, but having the flexibility to grow your own potential is really important. If you just save the stone, you actually lose control of the game because you have to keep defending the stone. I'm like not even playing the most severe way, right? I could have played a knight move. But like you have to keep defending it. You lose control because you have to keep defending. It gets heavier, so it gets harder to give up. It's like gambling, right? You invest or you bet more and then you're like, okay, I have to bet more to make up my losses. It's terrible. So it's better just to cut your losses early. This move is playing away from the important area. Like, groups are very important. Speaking of which, this bottom thing is still like who gets there first. We've seen so far in this game, like this group, this stone attacking, and kind of the way this is handled, right? Like Black really could have attacked the whole group, which would make it much heavier and much harder for White to give up and more profitable. So we really see that Black's kind of like there's been a lot of groups floundering. It's interesting to see. Black plays away again. I guess Black thought after this middle exchange here, it might be hard. I'm talking about these stones here. It might be hard to attack, but it's still kind of attackable. If you let White get a strong position, just play somewhere else for a sec, then your whole wall on the right and on the bottom are unused. Like you can't do much with them. White's basically alive in this area. So strategically, and I'm just assuming, because it keeps popping in my head, I'm just assuming for the sake that White's alive in the bottom left because no one's playing there, so I assume the players thought it was alive. But so yeah, so it's really strange that Black's playing away now, because if White just defends the center, it's going to be quite painful. White has a few choices here. White could take the corner with c16, take the outside with c15. B16 is sometimes played. It's not really played much anymore, because it's still played, actually, but it's kind of rare, getting rarer. I'm not entirely sure why. I kind of feel like it might just give Black more options, and it's not necessarily Sente. Like, if Black Tenukis this, or just Tenukis completely, you don't if you add an extra move, this exchange is potentially a loss, but it might not really be too bad a loss. And if you don't add a move, right, Black could have other, like, really annoying moves here. Like, this is a famous trick play, but even if it's a trick play, when you have extra stones like h17, they start becoming, real moves again, just because of the Aji. But anyway, so White chose the corner, which I think is fine. You could choose the outside if you're aiming for some sort of moyo, but like with these. But the corner is also quite nice. You could just think of these other positions as thick, not necessarily just looking at the development. Black plays here, and White plays this one. Okay. This is a nice attacking shape. That's a little much. Normally Black should just answer here because it preserves the cutting possibility and shortening White's liberties. You often see moves like this get played, although it kind of becomes complicated, like really board dependent. Maybe that's a bit much here. So maybe white would just take the outside, which I don't think is actually too bad, to be honest, considering the potential. Like, this is fairly weak. Probably white should add a move here. Actually, probably should even just connect. But the wall is quite nice, even if black gets a move here. This will be useful. Also, this is not entirely alive, is it? I guess it is. Yeah, like even if black gets a move here, you have endgame stuff like this. If you're wondering how this works, basically you just live like second line and undercut. Or if black Hana is, then you can cut on one side. It's kind of also famous SSG, but or there's also attachments, right? Like there's lots of ways to use this strength, even if black tries to reduce it, or if black's forced to play an efficient move like this, that's already gaining you something. So that's one consideration. You could also just like kick and then turn and attack the whole group. It might be a bit overplay in this case, but in any case, normally black defends the other way, and that's the idea of C14. This is kind of weird because pushing is really good. I understand why you don't want to do it right away because black can take these, and you don't really want to create too many cutting points, although in this case it's fine. But I would be tempted. Like, I really want to just play it right away. Although, of course, you also can consider black might just Tenuki, right? Treat these as light. If white follows up, you just, like, made an eye on the side, or potential eye on the side. But this is a bit much, I think. I think if you want to attack the whole group, then you should play something like this. Just press the group into your strength. Their strong corner. This kind of move, when you attach, it's very easy, like really easy, for black to give up the stones, or for you to end up with a really clumsy shape like this on the left. Like, these are now really in danger. If white pushes up, you just push up, right? Just push up. Like, sure, white can live like this, but black's getting a really strong group here, which black didn't have before. This is a squeeze, by the way. And then, I don't know, you could jump. You can even just take the eye space. It's quite big because of the follow-ups in the corner. It's really, like, dangerous when you play this kind of attaching move. That said, it's a 5Q game, so the reading is maybe not there, but intuitively your shape instinct should be, if you Hana on one side, then you get to cut on the other. Yeah, you can connect on the first line, but that's really, like, the center potential and this kind of reduction shape is generally very good for black and not something you should give. The Poniki is very big. And, these stones in the center are actually kind of looking a little weak after black gains this strength. So your options are give the Poniki like this, or let black cut off your shape. Generally, you don't want to play this kind of attaching move when it's the middle of 3. You can play it on the second line. The idea is that if you play on the second line, you're giving it a sacrifice. But on the top side, it's not very good usually. There is another case where you can play it, but I won't mention it now. So white plays here. If we just take a second to look at the position, even though this is not a great move, black ignored it, and now this has really bad Aji for white. And this is potentially moderately weak. And this top side has a lot of different ways white can play. I don't see what this move gains white. Like, white might be trying to play on a large scale to develop the left, but this already has some bad potential for white. So before you develop, you should erase... I'm not sure which is better. I guess this one. Erase the bad potential in your shape. So, like, now this group is basically dead. Like, you could play like this. But, like, there's no way for you to live here. So, adding an extra move, even if black jumps up, now this is solid territory. So it's not a big deal. And, Yeah, in the Ponoki variation, it was also solid territory, but black doesn't have a Ponoki here. Black just has a jump in the center. You could still block that and develop this middle area if you want. You could come back and live with this group. You can make a strong group here, right? And there's still like decent endgame with this kind of stuff. So I'm not really sure what this does, but my intuition is White was trying to capture the left on large scale. Sometimes it's just big enough, you take it, you make yourself solid and strong. Easiest way to wrap up the game. So I was gonna stop when this game, like, someone kind of pulled ahead, but basically right now, I think White will win, unless Black figures out he can kill the bottom left, in which case Black could be an advantage if Black kills the bottom left and makes use of the left-hand Badaji. I will say these stones do kind of stop this, because now you can attack it like this, which I guess is... But that really shouldn't have happened. Like, Black could ignore this move and play here. Right? Like, if you try the same thing... Actually, you could just play like this, and then give it up even. Right? And now you can cut Atari. Maybe not this one. Maybe just back off. But even if you back off, like... You did reduce White a bit. I'm not sure. I feel like... I guess pulling back's okay. I don't know. I just really am hesitant to play this way as White. Yeah. So anyway, Black pushes up here. White answers. Black follows up here, probably probing this shape. What does White do? Nice. White kills it off. Good. Defends this. And then defends the point. So you can play this kind of move when you think you're winning. Does Black think they're winning? If not, they should, well, aside from killing this bottom left, jump up here and attack force the 3 stones on a large scale. This kind of move, White should just answer here, which White does. If we just do a quick glance at territory, if White ever just lives with this group. Actually, this is not, like, you need another move. But if White ever just lives with this group, I think White wins. Like, even though this is here, you can't kill this, and you can't profit enough from attacking it. And I don't think Black has enough points after the left and the right. But White comes here. This is a decent point. Again, this is the critical area where these stones are not alive and it's unclear what's going to happen with them. As White, since I would really want to just follow up here, take advantage of the shortage of liberties, and then make shape. I would be really happy as White to do this. This group is basically unkillable. Like, you could jump in either direction. This is kind of unreasonably easy to connect. But White chose to develop the right. Little greedy, but it is a big point. Black answered. I'm not really sure why. I feel like Black really should cut or kill this. Maybe Black was worried about this kind of thing, but Black could just give up the stone, extending up. It's not a big loss. I mean, it's big, but it's not as big as the other points on the board. Yeah, so I kind of feel like there's not much point. Like, these are kind of forcing moves, but they're not important to play right now. This is actually quite a big point for liberties, but again, still bigger to play this one first. And even still just connect. I kind of want to just fast forward and see what happens with this bottom left group. Forcing moves, more moves. Did I misread? No, it can live, yeah. I don't know. This random net thing that doesn't work. Turns into a squeeze. White captures some stones in the middle, comes back here. I'm really curious what does this group just sit here forever? Oh, and then it lives. And that's the end of the game. That's bizarre. I'm assuming white won. Yeah. Well, I think overall white did well. Um, it is bizarre that this bottom left group got left for so long. I think black's main problem was like we saw a lot of group things, right? Like this bottom left got left alone forever. Not even before it's potentially dead. That like at this point people started tenuking, which is a little strange. The bottom left is really important because the way the board direction of play on the board goes, it follows a certain flow. That flow is dictated by weak groups. So and like attacking weak groups or threatening to attack them, threatening to make weak groups. So when there is a weak group that is there's a critical point around it, it's really big to prevent your opponent from attacking it and starting a flow across the board because they're going to control the pace. So this group got left alone for a long time, so much so that should have died. Then black, I can see what black is trying to do with this attack. It's just like it's a little clumsy, but it makes sense in its own way. And then black left it and let white regain control of the group here, right? If black had followed up on this attack, black could control the game, like keep control of the flow. Let's say something passive, let white connect, and then cap, right? Something very simple, or even just extend is fine, really. But I'd like the cap. You could try something fancy with some forcing moves here. White would have to come over here now. You get this nice big Atari. Still can develop. Like, I don't know. You can see, like, once you get that influence, and you get Sente, right, because you're the attacker, you should usually get Sente unless you mismanage it, or it's a badly timed attack. You get to control the flow. But, yeah, white came here, and black lost that opportunity, and now black had to come in, be the one under attack. White made some mistakes, but it's not a big deal. And lost control of the flow again. Like, black's always playing on the back foot. White always has a chance to go to the place that's big. And that's just a neglection of attacking and like of focusing on strong and weak groups. Yeah. This game's really funny though to me. This bottom left group got left alone for so long. Maybe can it still be killed here? I'm just curious because there's the E6 down, but like, am I missing something? No, I don't think I'm missing anything. Here, no, it still just can't connect. I don't know. It's really funny to me. But yeah, I guess I'll call it here. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about strong and weak groups. I do think this is a really common, not problem, but like something you start learning around this level, like 5Q. So yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Check out the next video. Thanks for watching. And bye.